Welcome back, scholars. So we left off on page 35 where we see that the wild ducks, the big wild ducks got into the Greg's home. So now here we are on page 36 and 37. So please follow along with me as I read. Just look at the beastly duck cooking at my stove, cried Mrs. Gregg as she flew past the kitchen window. How dare she? So here's the duck cooking at the stove, and Miss Gregg is very upset. You can see because she said, how dare she? And look at that one, holding my lovely gun, shouted Mr. Gregg. One of them is lying in my bed, yelled William, looking into a top window. And one of them is playing with my electric train, cried Philip. Oh dear, said Mrs. Gregg. They have taken over our whole house. We shall never get it back. And what are we going to eat? Oh, let me go back. So now they have to figure out what they're going to eat. I bet you I know what ducks eat. Let's see. I will not eat worms. I knew that was going to come up. I will not eat worms, said Philip. I would rather die. Or slugs, said William. Mrs. Gregg took the boys under her wings and hugged them. Don't worry, she said. I can mince it up. I can mince it all up very fine, and you won't even know the difference. Lovely slug burgers. Delicious worm burgers. Ew. So now they're going to have lovely slug burgers and delicious worm burgers. Oh no, cried William. Never, said Philip. Disgusting, said Mr. Gregg. Just because we have wings, we don't have to eat bird food. We shall eat apples instead. Our trees are full of them. Come on. So they flew off to an apple tree. But to eat an apple without holding it in your hands is not at all easy. Every time you try to get your teeth into it, it just pushes away. In the end, they were able to get a few small bites each, and then it began to get dark. So they all flew back to the nest and lay down to sleep. So you see, it's difficult for them to eat the apple. So it's easier when you can hold the apple in your hand so that you could take a bite. But you see how every time you try to get your teeth into it, it just pushes away. So it was very difficult for them to get food that night. All right. Let's see what's going on in the next page. Okay. So now here we see on page 40 this duck on the phone. Let's see what's going on. It must have been at about this time that I back in my own house, picked up the telephone and tried to call Philip. I wanted to see if the family was all right. Hello, I said. Quack, said a voice at the other end. Who is it? I asked. Quack, quack. Philip, I said. Is that you? Quack, 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 quack. Oh, stop it, I said. Then there came a very funny noise. It was like a bird laughing. I put down the phone quickly. Oh, that magic finger, I cried. What has it done to my friends? Oh, so you see the girl who's the narrator of the story right here? She called to speak to Philip. And this is when she realizes what the magic finger has done. Because look what she says. Oh, that magic finger, I cried. What has it done to my friends? So, do you think the narrator is in control of her finger? Let's see. That night, while Mr. and Mrs. Gregg and Philip and William were trying to get some sleep in the high nest, a great wind began to blow. Ooh, you see the wind? See right here? The tree rocked from side to side, and everyone, even Mr. Gregg, was afraid that the nest would fall down. Then came the rain. It rained and rained, and the water ran into the nest, and they got all wet as could be. And oh, it was a bad, bad night. Ooh, it is tough to live in a nest. Uh-oh, what's happening here? At last, the morning came, and with it, the warm sun. Well, said Mrs. Gregg, thank goodness that's over. I never want to sleep in a nest again. She got up and looked over the side. Help! She cried. Look! Look down there. What is it, my love? Said Mr. Gregg. He stood up and peeped over the side. He got the surprise of his life. On the ground below them stood the 4 enormous ducks. 1, 2, 3, 4. As tall as men, and 3 of them were holding guns in their hands. I see it. Look, 1, 2, 3. So 3 of the ducks have guns in their hand. One had Mr. Gregg's gun, one had Philip's gun, and one had William's gun. The guns were all pointing right up at the nest. Oh my God. So what do you think is going to happen next? So now we have the enormous ducks, 3 of them pointing the guns right at the Gregg family. What do you predict will happen next? Think time.